This is Dan from MusicXplorer. We're here with Marc Jonson, singer-songwriter from Long Island. He's playing here at the Stand-Up House with Willie Nile tonight, and he's got a lot of history. He released his first album in 1972, and he's got his latest single out called My Girlfriend Doesn't Like the Ramones. So Marc, tell me, why would nobody like the Ramones?
I started noticing Ramones videos, and I just got hooked. So I just kept watching interview after interview and absorbing the Ramones thing, their basic rock and roll clutch, power chords, and they had everything. They weren't pretentious. In one sense they were, but they knew it, like they were putting on that whole thing, and they knew they were not to be taken seriously. Like Joey would say, I never considered us a punk band, because by that time punk bands were imitating what they thought the Ramones were doing. And the Ramones were just good lovers of rock and roll. And so they loved anybody in rock and roll that had angst, that had energy, like Little Richard. The Ramones just did it their way, and everybody saw that they were grungier and more, punky looking than most bands. And so I think a lot of bands modeled themselves after that, but they didn't really know what the Ramones were really all about. And so I'm just, watching Ramones video after Ramones video, and my girlfriend, who was with me in Spain, would come in the room and say, "Not again! You're watching another Ramone? What's the matter with you?" The song just naturally came out of that angst of between me and my girlfriend. And also, I had just hooked up with this wonderful band, Company of Dreams Unlimited is their name, American name, and there are these three guys, and they were to become my band in Spain. We were starting to play together, so I wanted to bring a new song to the rehearsals because I wanted for me to have something to pump up the relationship that I was starting with this new band.
So how did you hook up with the band in Spain?
So this one guy said, "Would you be interested in starting a band?" And he didn't really have the time, but he said, "I know these three guys that are already a band, and they might just be perfect for you." So I went to see them. After 15 seconds of seeing them, I turned to my girlfriend, who doesn't like the Ramones, and said, "That's my band." It's because they were showmen, they were incredibly funny and great musicians, but they weren't just up there playing their instruments, and I just knew that they were my band, and they are my band.
So you were going to be recording with them?
Yeah, we did a whole album. We did a whole album. We did that single, and then we started recording the basic tracks.
You self-produced your first album in 1972.
Yeah.
And who are your influences? I know when I listen to Rainy Dews, it seems to me like you got a Cat Stevens influence.
Yes, that was one. Also, Arthur Lee and Love. I was a big fan of Love Forever Changes. He was influencing me, like to, don't stay so conventional. Come up with something a little oddball. Vibe-wise and voice-wise, I think Cat Stevens and Paul Samuel Smith, who produced Cat Stevens, a lot of that. See, when I get influenced, I get influenced by records and producers as well as vocalists and songwriters. I know how records are produced, so when I hear one that's produced the way I would produce a record, or I wish I would produce a record, I take it all in.
How long did it take you to get to produce that album?
Well, it took a year. I was coming from my own little studio, which was basically a TIAC A1200U tape recorder, which had sound on it. I didn't even have a board and a Fender reverb, which I would put the mic through to get reverb. And now I'm in this, Vanguard Studio was a state-of-the-art with a Neve board, 16-track, 15 IPS tape recorder with all of the, compression and all of the classic compressors and microphone. And I got to use all of that stuff and learn what they did. Because by the time I got comfortable, it was already 5-6 months into the record. It's funny you mentioned Cat Stevens. I called up A&M Records and I said, "My name's Marc Jonson. I'm a producer over at Vanguard Records. would you please give me Cat Stevens' manager's name? And they said, oh, sure. And they told me his name, Barry Cross. Oh, incidentally, he's in New York. He's at the Sherry Netherlands Hotel. So I literally went walking over to the Sherry Netherlands Hotel with the record, and he listened to it, and he liked it, and he says, well, come tomorrow. I'm having a few people over. I come back to the Sherry Netherlands the next day, and I ring on the doorbell of the room, and who answers the door but it's James Taylor. I meet Carly Simon is there, Paul Samuel Smith is there, Nat Weiss, the Beatles attorney, the Beatles American attorney is there, and Barry. And that's the little grouping get-together that he invited me to. Barry had kind of told them a little bit about me. So they were very supportive, and they said, we heard good stuff about your new record, and good best of luck, and it was great. But in the meantime, I was still writing songs. People were doing my songs in those years. Robert Gordon did 3, Paul Butterfield started recording, the Roaches did 1, Richard Barone did 1, a couple of songs that I co-wrote with him. People started recording a lot of my songs. Dave Edmunds in '90 did King of Love, so I sort of had a false sense of my career. Like I jokingly say, somebody said to me, you're not famous, and I said, I'm not? I thought I was. I was a songwriting fool, and I had my own studio in my house. So that's where 12 in a Room came from. 12 in a Room was just a compilation of all those demos. But they were so well thought out, good demos, and recorded properly that you could put them on a record.
So how did you hook up with Willie?
I had seen Willie at an open mic, and I said, we have to have this guy Willie Nile on the bill. And it was a week of Folk City, that when you played Folk City, you played Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And it was a real workshop when you played, It was like a whole week of, you played 2 shows a night, on the weekend 3.
Oh.
So by the time, that really broke you in. So there we were, the 3 of us, playing that show, and I just bonded with Willie. I mean, you don't have to be with him more than 2 minutes to fall in love with the guy. Willie and I were just, we liked the same thing. We were influenced by the same people. Willie knew I had a studio, and so whenever he wanted to record a new song, he'd come over to my place. I have a whole tape of Willie's
Really?
and my demos that,
That's cool.
have not been heard.
This is Marc's new single, My Girlfriend Doesn't Like the Ramones, and on the flip side, I Don't Want to Go to School Today. And you know what's really cool? It's a 45. Check that out. That is awesome. This is Dan from Music Explorer. Thanks, Marc.